Welcome to Karma's Harvest. They say the loudest silence is the one filled with suppressed regret. But for Vance Sterling, the silence was a cage built from his own cold-blooded ambition. He thought he had silenced the world's grief, only to find that karma speaks every language, including the one he was now forced to howl. What happened next in the sterile white halls of his own undoing will make you question if some souls are beyond saving. Have you ever realized that the trap you set for others might be the only home you have left? Vance sat in the corner of his padded cell, his mind a whirlwind of corporate strategies and Swiss bank codes, but his mouth could only produce the jagged, rhythmic panting of a terrified animal. He was no longer the entrepreneur of the year, he was Subject Zero. The small twist in his fate arrived with the morning rounds. The doctors who once took his bribes didn't look at him with sympathy. To them, he was no longer a benefactor, but a biological anomaly to be studied. They poked and prodded, ignored his human tears, and spoke about him, as if he were a specimen in a jar. The very efficiency protocols Vance had written to speed up animal testing were now being applied to him, ensuring his treatment was as fast and heartless as possible. The heavy steel door creaked open, and Kalen Voss stepped in, carrying the infamous black folder. He didn't look like a disgruntled assistant anymore. He looked like a victor. Kalen knelt in front of the man-beast and opened the file. It wasn't just records of fake medicine. It contained the original patents for Animus V, signed by a name. Vance had spent a decade trying to erase Silas Finch. Silas was Vance's original partner, a brilliant chemist who wanted to heal the world, until Vance pushed him off a balcony 10 years ago to claim the company for himself. My dog wasn't just a pet. Vance, Kalen whispered, his voice trembling with a decade of restraint. He was the last thing Silas left me. You took my brother, and then you took his legacy. Now I'm taking your identity. The big twist was yet to come. The mysterious figure liquidating Vespera Pharma's assets wasn't a corporate raider. It was Hattie Finch, the woman Vance had called hysterical and trash. She wasn't just a grieving pet owner. She was Silas's mother and a retired professor of biochemistry. She had been the one to refine the compound Kalen used to silence Vance. Hattie entered the ward, looking down at the shivering man on the floor. She didn't scream or strike him. She simply produced a legal document. Because Vance could no longer speak, sign his name, or pass a basic cognitive speech test, the board of directors orchestrated by Hattie had him declared legally incompetent and neurologically non-human. In the eyes of the law, Vance Sterling was now a biological entity without civil rights. Vance's eyes widened with a very human terror as he realized the magnitude of his harvest. His penthouse, his fleet of cars, and his billions were being transferred into a trust for the families of the pets he had killed. He tried to scream, to protest that he was still in there, that he was still a man. But the only sound that filled the room was a long, mournful whimper. He was moved to the very long-term observation facility. He had funded a place designed to keep subjects alive for decades, in total isolation for data collection. As the lights dimmed in his cell for the first night of his new eternity, Vance heard a familiar sound over the intercom. It was the recorded bark of the beagle he had killed in the trials, a sound Kalen had set to play on a loop every hour, every day, for the rest of Vance's life. He was finally a part of the future of longevity he had promised the world. He would live a very, very long time, but he would never be heard again. But wait, as Kalen walked away from the facility, he received a phone call from an unknown number. A voice on the other end said, "The CEO is gone, but the formula is still out there. Are you ready for the next phase? The empire of Vespera has fallen, but a new shadow is rising from its ashes." Who was on the other end of that phone? And what is the next phase that could threaten thousands more? The harvest is never truly finished when the seeds of greed have spread so far. If you believe that justice should be as poetic as it is cold, Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss part 3, where the true reach of the Finch family's revenge is revealed. What would you do if you realized you weren't the hero of your own story, but the villain? Share your thoughts in the comments below.